My name is Genvieve Morsuit. I'm from outside of Toronto. I go to TMU, so Toronto Metropolitan University. I'm going into my fourth year right now. I study fashion design. I'm also a runner on the side, but running has become a very big passion of mine as of the last 2, 3 years. And I think that's also what's really helped find some sort of virtue within epilepsy and kind of dealing with that like mental block that it comes with. But yeah, I was diagnosed when I was 14. When my doctor told me about it, it was just a lot of big words, and I didn't know what anything meant and I was scared. And the doctor I had at the time was not that helpful with that kind of stuff. He just kind of told me, this is what you have and it's going to change, like your life is going to be changed. You can't fix it. You can't do anything about it. And I was like, that sucks. Like, I'm so young. I just started my life and now you're telling me I can't do anything, whatever. When I went home and I told my family, like, what had happened, what the doctor had said, my uncle actually told me, he was like, you can either let this control you or you can control it and you can take control and, not let this affect who you are. I really took that like deep, and that's when I really got into health, wellness, and fitness. I did my own research. I figured out what all those big words meant and kind of made my own name for it. And even though it is a negative thing to happen in my life, I actually am very grateful for it happening because I would not be where I am today if I didn't have to deal with all that kind of trauma, but, bad things, negativity to lead to what I have right now. So, yeah. So, like I said, when I was 14, I was diagnosed with it, and I was diagnosed with generalized epilepsy, which affects the entirety or like both sides of your brain. So the motor and non-motor aspects as well. I typically have like motor episodes, so it affects my body, and I have actual seizes, like my body trembles and I start shaking and convulsing. But I have had situations where it's been non-motor as well, and that can be affected through deja vu, and you kind of zone out and blackout in a sense. Those don't affect me as horribly as the motorized ones do, because when that does happen, I fall, and I think I've had probably 50 seizures throughout my life. And every time I get a concussion or some sort of injury, I've like broken my eye socket. I've broken fingers, teeth, scars all over my body from it. So physically it affects me a lot more, but both motor and non-motor episodes affect me emotionally, mentally, and spiritually in ways that like it's hard to explain. And a lot of people ask me kind of what it feels like, and the only way I can really describe it is like you're in sleep paralysis. That's what it's like. So I never know what it feels like in the moment because I am like asleep basically, but waking up from it, my body is still kind of going through the phase of trying to wake up, but my mind is awake. I know what just happened to me, and I have like I hyperventilate over it because I want to tell people that I'm okay, but I can't because my body's still waking up from it. So that was also like a big thing I kind of had to get over and figure out a way to kind of control that part of epilepsy. I think there's a lot of things that people don't understand from it, because when you see a seizure, when you think of epilepsy, that's like the only thing you really think of. But to me, there's a lot more to it. Like I wake up every day, my medication makes me tired, it makes me dizzy, I get stomach aches, headaches, whatever. And then there's a constant like voice in the back of my head telling me, okay, like you got to be careful, you have this, you need to make sure you're fueled right, you need to make sure you're not doing this. And it sucks having it, but I don't know, you learn to accept it and grow with it, I guess. So yeah. So I was just going into grade 9. Prior to that, I still am this type of person, but I never even took like Advil growing up because I never liked the idea of taking medication. I never liked the idea of not feeling myself 100%. Like even if I was sick, I'd try and find other remedies to help myself so I would know fully how I was feeling, whatever. So then when I was told that I had to take this medication basically for the rest of my life, and I was just starting high school, I was kind of like insecure because I didn't want people to make fun of me for it, because people do like make fun of people having seizures all the time. I don't get affected by it. I don't really care. But like, I didn't want people to think of me as weak or as like disabled and not and different in a bad way. So I kind of kept it hidden from basically everyone that I knew except for my close friends. I told them. And obviously they're very supportive and understanding and everything like that. But when I was in high school, I did have 2 episodes in school. And I was like bullied for that. And that sucked as well. But like, I don't let that affect me because I know I'm a better person than that, and I'd never make fun of someone for something having that. But it's just kind of seeing other people's lack of education for this type of diagnosis. So it was difficult, but because of the support system I had around me, it just made things a lot easier. I'm sure if I didn't have the friends that I have or the family that I had, it would be a lot more difficult, but I'm very grateful for who I have in my life to help me with this. So because of my medication and stuff like that, I still have the side effects of, being tired and having mood swings and stuff like that. So, and I've never been the type of person to be over dramatic about that kind of stuff. I like to keep my emotions in check for the most part. I do also know, and I don't know if you know, but if you have an episode in your sleep, it can be fatal. So every time that I wake up, I'm like, oh, thank God, like I'm alive, like this is good, like it's a good day, I'm here, we need to make sure this today is a great day, whatever. Every day I start my morning that kind of way because, who knows? And it can happen to anyone, not just someone with epilepsy. And then I go on my morning run, and I run 20 to 30 kilometers every day. And throughout that time that I'm out there, I like to reflect on epilepsy as a whole and how it's changed me as a person. And in the beginning, it was really hard for me to accept it because it just made me so angry, like to have it. And I was so upset and I was so sad. And I used to have like 3 episodes a day. I haven't had one, knock on wood, in like 6 months. So that's really good. But there were points in my life when I had extra stress happening that it would come on and it would be strong and it'd be really bad. When I go on my runs now, I reflect on that part of my life, and I've really found me being able to be by myself and have my own thoughts and kind of hyper-analyze everything has allowed me to accept it in a completely different way than I would have been if I hadn't started running. So even though my parents are concerned for how long I go out and the heat and overexhaustion and everything like that, I know I would not have been as allowed this, I don't know the words, but just allowing this type of positivity in such a negative space. And I've always been that type of person to try and find the positive outlook and to always find a solution. And to me, this has been my solution for the past 3 years now. I'll come back from my run and have breakfast with my family, whatever. And then I'll go to the gym, do my thing there. And throughout the day, I also like to do extra research on foods that help with epilepsy. So I know being in ketosis, so having a keto diet is really helpful. And I try not fully to be on that diet, but aspects of it. And then what else? I like to do extra research on the actual brain itself because I feel like there's so much that we don't know about it. And it's such an amazing part of your body that fires everything. It does everything for you. So there's never enough that we can look at for it. And every day I'll find something new or new articles and stuff like that that don't necessarily have to do with epilepsy, but just about the brain and about neurons and that kind of stuff. It's really interesting to learn about it. So I've made my own kind of document, and I just add different stuff every day. And anytime I learn something new, I'll do that as well. And that's also really helped with accepting it and learning more about it. And I like to share with my friends and family all this new stuff that I found out. I guess if I wasn't as into fashion as I am, I definitely would have gone to neurology or something like that, because even though definitely wouldn't have done it if I didn't have epilepsy, but because I have it, it's a new passion. Stress and lack of sleep are the two that affects me the most. So, you know, being a runner, marathon runner, it's not the greatest idea because your body is under stress for 3 hours at a time. But even though my body's under stress, my mind is completely clear and calm. So I guess that's the difference. But I've seen that throughout the patterns of me having episodes, it's typically when something kind of big and traumatic has happened in my life. So if I've lost like a family member, or there's like a huge exam coming up or something like that, typically that will lead to late nights. That will lead to me having crazy mood swings as being really sad and down, and then I kind of lose my appetite as well from it. So whenever I get in those kinds of stages, I have to be extra careful. And typically that's when it happens. Sometimes I'll be completely healthy and fine and out of nowhere, but for the most part, those are my triggers. Nothing to do with sound or light or anything like that, which I'm happy about. I keep saying it, but it's honestly my running. Even though I've been a runner for like 2-3 years, the past 6 months, like I just came back from doing the Paris Marathon in April, and starting my training for that, I was under a lot of stress, but like I said, being able to go out and run has really cleared my mind. And now I'm training for an ultra marathon, which is happening September 20th. Kind of still being in training mode and constantly having like a goal set for myself has allowed me to. It may be stressful for other people to think, oh, I have like so much I need to do, but like since I love it so much, it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like I need to, and like an obligation. It's just what I love doing. So I think that's helped with decreasing my stress and that kind of stuff. And lack of sleep, because I get so tired after my runs, I fall asleep like that. There's no issue with that kind of stuff. So I think yeah, I feel like that's really what's helped me all around. 100%. Um, and it just felt like a loss of maturity as well. Like if it was late at night, I was like, oh, I really want ice cream. Okay, well, I can't do anything about it. I can't go out and get ice cream. But I have an older sister, and, she is really supportive and helpful, and she understands, obviously, what I'm going through. So she'll drop anything and be like, you need to drive? I'll drive you. I don't care. But there has been times where I'm home alone. My friend calls me like, hey, you want to hang out? I'm like, actually can't. But that's actually what started my running, because I was like, you know what? I'll just run to your house. And since I live in the country, everyone lives far away. So I'd have to run like 10K to my friend's house. And then I was kind of like, wait, this is fun. And then like that's kind of how it started. But yeah. So even though not having my license sucks, I have so many people that they don't care. They know what I go through, and they're more than happy to help me out. And I'm sure if I did have my license, I wouldn't be as into running or as good as I am. So it worked out in both ways. So like I said, like back in high school, I was like bullied a couple times because of it. So I guess those are kind of fallbacks and misconceptions. Again, getting back to the idea with the strobe lights, whenever I'm a big partier, I love going out. So my friends are always like, oh my God, like, can you go out? Like, are those strobe lights going to affect you? I'm like, no, I'm fine. There's nothing to worry about, whatever. So I don't get upset when people don't understand or whatever. I'm so willing to talk about it and tell people about it and kind of if they're willing to learn. If they're just going to be mean about it, then I don't want to talk to you about it. But if you're willing to learn and understand, I'm more than happy to sit here and talk to you about it. I think those are the big misconceptions I've got from it. I'm the only one in my family that has epilepsy as well. So it's also a whole different level of trying to get my family to understand it as well. Obviously, they're supportive and they try their best. But, when I say, hey, I'm tired, I want to go home, it's a different type of tired. I want to go home. I'm overstimulated. Like, this can lead to something worse. I guess that kind of stuff, but it's never been that bad where I don't see myself getting out of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's pretty manageable to me. So I've never had surgery. I've had surgery for other stuff, but I've never had it for epilepsy. But the medication did affect me. Like I said before, I never would take medication or Western medication to begin with. So when I was initially diagnosed with it, I forget what the first medication I was on was called, but the side effects were extreme hair loss. And I remember I was like 14, 15. I was getting ready for a soccer game in high school, and I was putting my hair up into a ponytail, and like clumps of my hair kept falling out. And I didn't know it was my medication at the time. And I remember I was putting my hair up and I saw like bald patches everywhere. And I went to my friend and I was like, can you see bald patches in my hair? And like she looked at me and she was like, I'm gonna be honest with you, yes, but we're gonna style your hair in a way that you can't see anything. And like that, she's obviously still a very close friend of mine in my life, and that was a really special moment for me because I was very insecure about it, and she was really helpful in that situation. So after that happening, I went to my parents and I was like, this is happening. I don't know if this has to do with my diet. I don't know if this has to do with my medication, whatever. So I ended up switching medications. So I no longer go through that. But I still struggle with like dizziness, nausea. I get like a loss of appetite, but then like a huge gain of appetite. Like it's crazy. It goes back and forth. I get migraines. I think that's pretty much it. But so it's been helpful as in the way it's helped me to not have seizures as often. But I still like to see myself in a life where I don't have to take medication every day for this, and I'm able to control it through anything else. 100%. Like I said before, the brain is like a fantastic part of the body, and we know so much about it, but there's still so much we don't know. And I think being able to fund for epilepsy in general, hopefully at some point finding a cure, so that way, people don't have to be a test dummy and they just do one thing and it works for them, and just, new mechanics and stuff like that, to finding, I don't know, finding different stuff about the brain and new medications and things that are different to change it up for people, because epilepsy, it's a pretty broad umbrella spectrum between so many smaller things that could be affected by it. If we fund more money towards epilepsy and the brain, then we can be able to find research to help with other things as well, other than just epilepsy, and other things that happen within the brain. So I think it could be a helpful starting off point too, not just something so standard. I don't know how to explain it. Yeah.